Newstalk 1250 KBRF and online at KBRFradio.com. It's now time for Let's Go Places, brought to you by Quality Toyota on West Lincoln Avenue in Fergus Falls. Let's go places. And today we are going to head 200 miles off to our east, a little over 3 hours to Schaefer, Minnesota, and the Franconia Sculpture Park. Joining me now, I have Amber White. She is the Education and Program Coordinator, and Alyssa Auten, the Marketing and Creative Director. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am great. And I was talking to Amber last week when we were setting up this interview, and I was letting her know that I discovered the Franconia Sculpture Park when I was coming back from Bayfield, Wisconsin. We went through Turtle Lake and Taylor Falls, and I saw the sculptures from the road, and I'm like, wow, this is just one place we got to eventually make it to. And I definitely wanted to talk about this for Let's Go Places. So let's start off with probably the easiest and most obvious question. What is Franconia Sculpture Park?
Franconia Sculpture Park is a 43-acre outdoor sculpture park. We're a nonprofit arts organization. We host a residency program for artists, and we have a ton of public programming and workshops and opportunities for the public and students and people of all ages to get involved in the art-making process.
Now that we know kind of what it is, how did it start? What was the genesis behind it?
It was started in 1996 by a group of artists, and we started at a smaller location down the road on 8 acres, and now we are up to 43, and we're at the corner of Highways 8 and 95 in Schaefer, Minnesota. We're very close to Taylor Falls, to the Interstate State Park and the St. Croix River Valley.
You're located in such a beautiful area, and with that 43-acre park, you've got plenty of room there for the sculptures. Are there new sculptures yearly? Do they rotate out? How long does a sculpture stay there?
Yeah, so at the moment we have over 120 sculptures on the 43 acres. All of those except one are on sort of a rotating schedule. So we have just one sculpture that is permanent, and that was done by a man who was killed in the World Trade Center.
Oh.
So the rest of the sculptures are created by our intern artists and our artist fellows, and they are sometimes they're just here for a year, sometimes they're here for a couple of years, but they are on a rotating basis. So every time you come here, there will be new sculptures for people to enjoy.
The artist that Alyssa was mentioning is Michael Richards, and his sculpture is near the front of the park. It's a cast bronze sculpture, a series of 3 figures arranged in a circle, and that can be found down the very first trail of the park. He was a fellow back in 2000 at the former location of the park, and as Alyssa said, he was killed in New York City in 2001.
That's great that you're continuing his honor and continuing exhibiting his sculptures.
It's been very important to us.
As we discuss the sculptures, currently with them rotating through, what is the largest sculpture you have there? And out of curiosity, what's their smallest one?
Oh, let's see. Our largest, probably in terms of weight, is a sculpture by Peter Lundberg. It's kind of up on the hill in the back portion of the park. It's titled Scalagrim, and Peter is known for casting these really large concrete forms all around the world, actually. And so it's the one, a lot of people refer to it as a kind of a chromosome shape. It's a huge concrete sculpture that could be seen from almost anywhere in the park. And the smallest sculpture, that's hard to say. We do have some smaller works near the house in our cast iron exhibition, and while those are very large-scale iron castings, very large for that process, they are smaller in comparison to the rest of the park.
Okay. And we've touched on concrete, bronze, and cast iron. What are the more common materials that they do make the sculptures out of? What are people going to see?
We do have a lot of fabricated steel sculptures. Sort of the beauty and the challenge of working in an outdoor setting is, holding up to this wind we're having and the snow and rain and elements. And so steel, of course, is just a very durable material. And a lot of those sculptures have kind of extended their expected period of time and have stayed longer on exhibition because they just, they can withstand the elements that we have here in Minnesota.
And on average, about how long does a sculpture stay on exhibit?
At least 1 year.
Okay. And do any of them get sold, or do they go back to the artist, or how do they move on?
The artists retain ownership of the sculptures, and we have sold works over time. Sometimes they go to private collections or other parks or businesses, and so we do move sculptures from time to time.
When we talk about the sculptures, we got to talk about the artists, and you have a great artist residency program. What's involved in that?
Yeah, so every year we open applications to artists from all over the world, all levels of experience. We are currently accepting applications right now for our artist fellowships, as well as our intern artists and our hot metal residency programs. So there's more information on our website, on Facebook, about those residencies. And so artists will send us an application with a proposed sculpture that they're interested in creating. All of those applications go through a pretty tedious and complicated review process with professional artists and staff and board members. And then artists are chosen for certain categories of residency, and then they come here during their selected time of the year. They live on site in our large house. That's both our offices and our living quarters. And so the intern artists spend 6 days a week, 7 days a week working for us for a certain amount of time per day. They get to help lead tours, lead our Kids Make Sculpture events, as well as create their own sculpture. And then the fellowship artists do the same. They come here for a certain amount of time and build their large-scale sculpture that they proposed in their application. So,
okay.
And one of the most incredible aspects of what we do here is that the visitors and people who come here can see artwork in process. The studio is an outdoor workspace, and so on any given day from April through November when we are hosting artists, you can drop by and see what people are working on and see art, in process, and talk with the artists and kind of see it all come together. And then you can come back later in the year or the following year and see it installed and see the final sculpture.
That is
so it sort of helps to demystify the process of making art and what it means to be an artist and form those connections for the general public.
That's amazing that they can watch it through the entire process. I was going to ask you about the selection process, but you went over that. And as you were mentioning that, you kind of mentioned that they have a certain time that they're allowed on campus or allowed in the residency. About how many artists do you have throughout the summer, and then how many do you have on site at any given time?
Yeah, so typically throughout the whole year we have about 40 artists that are here in all those different categories of programs, and then we have we have a spring, a summer, and a fall residency, as well as our hot metal residency, which is a really intense 2 weeks with all of our artists who come here for the hot metal pour on the first Saturday of August. And so at any given time in the house, we probably have, I would say, Amber, maybe 8 to 15, somewhere in there.
During the spring and fall, it's 8 or 10, and then at the peak of the summer during the hot metal residency, we have over 20 artists here.
It's got to be a pretty packed place.
It is, definitely.
And you kind of touched on the hot metal pour. What are some of the events you have coming up and any promotions throughout the spring, summer, fall that you would like to touch on?
Sure. We have a Music at Franconia series. It's an outdoor concert series in our Earthen Amphitheater that was designed by artists as well. And those are once a month in June, July, and August, as well as our annual Art and Artist Celebration in September that has music all day. Do you want to mention the metal pours?
Yeah, so in August, again, I mentioned the first Saturday of August is our community collaboration hot metal pour, and that includes our hot metal residents who are here creating their own art, but the exciting thing is that it's a chance for the public to get involved and make their own sculpture. So the weeks preceding that, we have workshops for people to carve their own sand molds, and then they can come back to the metal pour and watch them be filled with hot iron, molten iron, and so then they get this little sculpture to take home with them. So that's a way for the community to get involved and make their own piece of art. And then on the second Saturday of August is our resident artists metal pour, and so that's when their more intricate molds are filled. But the public is also welcome to come watch that. So,
and people can schedule a visit or an organized tour with us pretty much all throughout the year. We just require a minimum of 10 participants, and we have a guided walking tour as well as various tours and workshop activities for different age groups.
It's amazing. I know you guys also have free guided tours every Sunday at 2 o'clock from May to November as well.
That's correct. Yep.
Now, here's probably the hardest question I'm going to ask you, ladies. What is your favorite part about being involved with the Franconia Sculpture Park? What really energizes you?
Oh, wow. If I could sum it up, I would probably say connections. So personal connections, relationships we form with the artists who live here and come and go from all across the world, as well as the connection that's made between the public and our artists, and the sort of connections that people form here over time. You know, we have a lot of visitors who say, oh, I haven't been here in 5 years or 10 years, or I remember coming here when I was a kid, and they have those memories. And it's a lot of, those connections and sort of the experience that people have with the park being in their everyday landscape in this area.
Okay. And now, when we started off and we mentioned that the park was originally in a different location and it has expanded to that 43-acre park, as we look towards the future, where do you see the park maybe in like 5-10 years? Where do you see the vision of the future for the Franconia Sculpture Park?
We'll be expanding our programming substantially. We've got a new community learning center that's underway, so we'll have a larger indoor space for group programs and workshops, as well as the additional 23 acres that we expanded in 2015. There will be room for a lot more sculpture out here, so we're excited to see what the artists create and make this year and in the years to come.
Alyssa, Amber, anything I'm missing that we should touch on as we discuss the Franconia Sculpture Park?
I would say probably just we'd love for people to get involved on social media. Check out our new website. We're always posting things on Instagram, behind-the-scenes events, and artists at work, things that are happening at the park. And so there's also an e-newsletter that we send out about once a month that people can sign up for, and then they'll get all the information and all the opportunities to come and visit the park, be involved in making their own art here, and all the things that are going on here. So it's definitely a good way to get involved.
Well, I want to thank you, ladies, for joining us. That's Alyssa Auten, Marketing and Creative Director, and Amber White, the Education and Program Coordinator with the Franconia Sculpture Park in Schaefer, Minnesota. Our Let's Go places for today on News Talk 1250 KBRF. Depend on it.